When I woke up in the hospital after having suffered from anaphylactic shock, the doctors told me I had almost died. They said I needed to go to an allergist immediately and find out what I was allergic to. This is how it all happened. Okay. I was a teacher, and it was the first day of summer vacation. And I had my two granddaughters who had just graduated from fifth grade, and our little neighbor who just graduated from kindergarten with me. And we were gone the whole day. We were out, since it was my first day off, we were out doing all kinds of fun things, and we ate out breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and ice cream and everything else, cake, you name it. We ate everything. And we didn't get home until 10:30 at night, and we were up in my bedroom, and I was sitting on my bed, and our cat Butterfinger had just come inside, and I was petting him, and the girls were sitting on the floor, and we were talking and laughing, and all of a sudden my hands started itching like crazy. I was going, oh, I was just itching and itching and itching and itching, and I said, girls, I gotta go take a shower. There's something wrong. So I walked to the bathroom, which was about 10 feet away, and as soon as I got there and saw myself in the mirror, my tongue was totally swollen, and it was sticking out of my mouth, and I couldn't talk. I raced back to the bedroom, and I collapsed on the floor. I couldn't breathe either, and my granddaughters called 911, and they didn't have any idea what was going on. They had no idea. But luckily, the ambulance got there. They came in, and I remember them taking me downstairs and giving me an EpiPen. And I knew about EpiPens because I had students in my class that had EpiPens, and I needed to know how to use them for those students. They were allergic to bee stings and things like that. So anyway, I knew what was happening there. I knew what was wrong with me, that I was going into anaphylactic shock. And so I knew that I didn't have very much time. I knew I really needed to get to a hospital as fast as possible. So my my neighbor came over, got the girls. I left in the ambulance. I wasn't even thinking about them anymore. I was just thinking, I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it to the hospital, because our house was pretty far away from the hospital. We were close to a clinic, and I was hoping they were taking me there, but I couldn't talk. And so when we didn't turn off to where the clinic was, I was trying to motion to them to go there, and they were going, no, we got to take you to the hospital, the main hospital. So I was shaking my head, no, no, no. And they gave me another EpiPen, and I was laying on the stretcher, and my body just went up in the air, and it just raised right up in the air, and then I was vomiting, and it was horrible. It was a horrible feeling. After that, I was just thinking to myself, this is how I'm going to die. This is how I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it to the hospital because it's really far. So I was just thinking, that was the only thing I was thinking of. I was really worried. Anyway, we did make it to the hospital, but by then I don't remember anything. I think I was unconscious. And when I woke up, as soon as I woke up, the doctors said, you almost died. They had to give you a lot of EpiPens, and we didn't think we were going to be able to save you. And they said, you have to find out what you're allergic to as soon as possible. And so I said, I will go to find out. And at that time, it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. And they released me from the hospital. And I took a taxi home. And my granddaughters were at my neighbor's house. So I just went to bed. And the next day, I went and got them. And I said, we're going to go to see an allergist. So I went over there as soon as possible, and I told them it was an emergency that I needed to speak to the allergist that day. And I remember going in there, and it was a woman, and she gave me all the different shots that they give you in your back. I think it was like 20 or 25 shots of different things like animal dander, grass, different kinds of things like that, different kinds of foods and so on. And then she said, we don't see anything that you're allergic to. We don't see anything. And I was like, there has to be something. And she goes, there isn't. We don't see a thing. So I was like, well, I just went into anaphylactic shock and almost died. And I have to know what I'm allergic to, or how can I stay away from it? And she said, 30% of the people that have allergies have unknown allergies. And so they just don't know what they're allergic to. And I said, that's not acceptable. I can't go around in the world not knowing what I'm allergic to, because how am I going to prevent this from happening again? And she said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not even positive that you went into anaphylactic shock. And I said, I did. I said, well, I was sitting in your office waiting for you. I watched a whole movie on it, and that's exactly what happened to me. And she said, okay, well, we just don't know. So I was really mad. I was so mad because I thought, oh, if I know it's peanut butter or whatever it is, I'll just stay away from that. It'll be easy. Well, not knowing what it is pretty scary. So I was angry when I left, and I slammed the door when I left, and I said, the next time I see you, I'll be dead. And I marched out of there, and I remember I made an appointment for another allergist, and I did another allergy test, and it came back the same thing. They did not know what it was. I had an unknown allergy. So I pretty much had to think, okay, think of everything that you ate yesterday, or yesterday, the day before I went into anaphylactic shock. Think of every single thing that you ate. Write it all down. The girls can help you. So we made a big list of all the foods that we had, and we knew because there were 4 of us together, and so we made the list. And then I said, okay, I'm not going to eat any of these foods at all. And there were a lot of things on there that I really loved. And I thought, well, I can't eat them. I'm not eating them. So I went for a very long time, probably years, without eating any of those things on the list. And I had also said to the doctor, what about it being that I was petting my cat, and maybe my cat had something on him from being outside. Like maybe he had been in some kind of chemicals or something. And she said, no, if it was on your tongue like that, it would have been a food. I said, okay, well, I don't know, but hopefully I don't find out what it is in the near future. So I just had to go for the rest of my life. I had to get EpiPens. And at the beginning, I believe the EpiPens were something like $160 for 2 EpiPens. You have to have 1 EpiPen right away, and you have to put it in your thigh. You have to jam it in your thigh, and then if if you can breathe after that, which is hopefully you will be able to breathe for a while, then you have to do the second EpiPen if you're not at a hospital or anything yet. And so you have to have the two of them. And so every time I went to the pharmacy, I had to get two. And the price kept going up and up and up. And they only last a year. And then people said to me, people that were EMTs and stuff said, well, they can go for 2 years. You can wait a year after the expiration date. And I was like, wow, that's really chancy. I don't know if I want to do that or not. So I tried to just get them every year. But then after they got to be so expensive, they got up to $800 when I was getting them. And I was like, wow, $800 every year for this? This is crazy. And I hadn't had any anaphylactic shock episodes at all. I didn't have any allergy episodes. So I just kept on going and going. And I did notice that one time when I had barbecue sauce, I turned bright red, but I could still breathe. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to have any more barbecue sauce. I'm not eating any of that again because I'm not taking any chances on it. However, the day that I had gone into anaphylactic shock, I hadn't had any of that. So my whole life since then, which has been, let's see how many years now, like 25 years since then, it's been really upsetting. If I go to a place, if I go to a potluck dinner or something like that, where I don't know what's in all the food, then I hardly eat anything. I might eat some of the bread and butter and maybe a little bit of yogurt or something, but I really don't want to take a chance on the other food because I don't really know what's in it. So I've been trying to make my own food all the time so I know exactly what's inside of it. And that's how things have been going. And by the way, my name is Debbie, and I used to be at Off Topic for my name, but now my name is, drum roll, da 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 da. It is Not Done Yet, Life Unscripted. I think that that's a more fitting name for it because I have a lot of adventure stories to tell and things to tell that happened to me, and some of them might help you. So I'm hoping that this might help you. If you don't know anything about anaphylactic shock and how dangerous it is, this may help you in the future. If you see anybody that's got their tongue sticking out and they can't talk and they can't breathe, you need to call 911 immediately. And if they have an EpiPen, check to see if they do because they might already have one with them. Okay, thank you so much for stopping. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe and like this video. And here's another video for you to watch. Thank you.